All right, folks, we are back here. We're going to finish up the brake job on the, I still have stuff on my lens. How does that always happen? All right, like I was saying, we are back working on the rear brakes for the F-350. The front brakes took a little longer than expected, especially the driver's side. I actually had to go pick up a nice tool for that, the hydraulic puller. It just was not coming off with heating and beating and beating and heating and out of breath. No, it was not coming off. So I did get that off eventually, and here's a picture of the tool from Harbor Freight. It's a 10-ton hydraulic pull, and that worked. That popped it off 3 pumps, and it came right off. So got that back together, and now we're working on the back. So before I forget, which I forgot originally, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. Hit the notification bell, and you'll be notified, of course, whenever we put out new content. So we've got a couple of great projects coming up later this year. One of them, hopefully, we're going to take a look at very soon here, and it's going to be an awesome project for the channel. Not going to tell you what it is, but it's going to be quite a challenge. Anyways, let's get back to the back tires. We've got her jacked up just a little bit here. We've gone ahead and pulled off the lug nut cover. And a trick for that, if you don't have a special tool, you can use like the end of a bungee cord to get in behind it and pull out, or I happen to use a J-hook screwed into a 2x4. Actually, here, I'll show you. On the back of the wheel inserts here, or the wheel covers, you've got these little insets where you can put a tool in. And I've tried before with other stuff and fought it. And I ended up today just taking this little hook and screw it into this 2x2 and pulls right out. You can use, like I said, a back of a bungee cord, the proper tool if you have one. But if you don't, that'll work for you just fine. So I already got ahead, jacked up the vehicle, knocked off the lugs so we can finish taking those off the rest of the way. For those of you keeping score, this is a 13/16. Let's see if this wheel comes off easily. Nope, of course. I did the other wheel already, and it came right off. You know what? The heck with it. I'm going to show you that tool. Just kidding. I gave it one whack with my I'm not asking you nicely stick, otherwise known as the 12-pound or 10-pound sledge. All right. Get you out of the way. Let's see how steely. It comes right off. Would you? All right, you can get out of the way. Why are you back? You get out of the way too. All right, those are both getting replaced anyways. So what we've got these 8 bolts that come out, which hold in the axle, or the half shaft, whatever you want to call it. And there's a big retaining nut that comes off, and then a outer bearing that all needs to come out before you can take off the hub, or sorry, not the hub, the rotor and the spacer. But right now we can start getting off the caliper and the caliper bracket. Now, I had these things off a couple of years ago because when I was coming back from a camping trip in Wisconsin, hanging out with the steam folks, the parking brake assembly in here, the pins gave out, they let go because this back plate was rusted out, and the parking brake wrapped itself around the axle. So I pretty much left the campground, put it in drive, put it in reverse until everything stopped making noises in there, and prayed for the best and drove home. And then dealt with that aftermath. I'll see if I can find a picture of that. I don't know if I still have it. But anyways, let's go ahead and get the caliper and the caliper bracket off. All right, this rotor does look definitely worse for wear. The other rotor and caliper have been replaced on the driver's side. Those weren't looking too bad, but this side, let's see what it looks like. We'll just start right off with the breaker bar, huh? Not too bad there, and yes, I'm in my own way. I know, I can't get out of my own way. All right. These were 17 mil bolts on the caliper bracket, or the caliper, if you're keeping score. And I'm just going to start off with the big wrecking bar because I know better. Oh yeah, that worked really well. Let me go grab my hanger. We have a 13/16 again for the caliper bracket. See if this will cooperate with us. Yep, not too bad there. All right, same there. Alrighty, we're back now. We'll show that caliper bracket in just a few minutes here. But you may be asking why I've got a treat tray and a napkin here. Well, we take this off. We're going to have some of the fluid from the rear differential, of course, come out of here. So we want to make sure we don't get our floor all dirty because, you know, it's not dirty anyways. All right, now I'll go ahead and pull this loose. There we go. Go ahead and take out our drive axle here, half shaft, whatever you want to call it, and just try and make sure you don't get a lot of dirt and stuff on the axle, cover it up, or dirt back in there. That'll wreak havoc on things. What I'm going to do just for fun, not necessary, but I'm going to mark on the hub and the cover where everything matched up, so when I put it back together, I can find where it goes. Again, don't know that anybody cares, but that's what I do. So I'll go ahead and take this out. That big beefy thing. Set this off to the side, where it will no doubt drip. Alrighty. Got some paper towels, whatever else is handy, an egg crate, just to keep stuff off the ground. So here is where this special axle nut tool comes in. Sets in here, and I try and keep an eye on how far this is in currently. If there's any play in here, there really shouldn't be much of any play. But I am seeing 1, 2, 3 rows of threads in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to back it out until this nut is flush with the end of the spindle here. And that's how I'm going to mark, see how many turns it takes to come out until I get to that point, and use that as a reference for putting it back together. Got my logo of the tool up here so I can use that for a reference. This one I actually need the breaker bar for. The other one came off on that side, was a little bit loose, so. One, two, three turns, and I'm flush on there, so that's about what I had on that side too. It's just a big special nut that locks that in there. And you've got a bearing in there too. And in the perfect world, this should come right off with a little tap. But it's not, so I'm going to get my bigger stick out and whack it. You may need to disengage your parking brake shoes from the backside, so we may need to look at doing that too. Other than just crusties, I don't hear it catching on the brakes. There we go. Here's that other inner bearing, or outer bearing, sorry. And this is in good shape. You would normally see if they were worn. You have lines in here, or sometimes these just go missing. All right, pull this off. It's going to get a whole lot messier. All right, that went about as well as expected. Alrighty, about as well as expected for that. You can see this brake hardware is relatively new. Like I said, I think it was 2017, 2016, 2017, that this got all hung up, wrapped itself around the axle here. These shoes just wrap themselves all around. So I replaced all the hardware, backing plate, pins, and everything looks to be good. And when we go put this back on, we'll make sure that the parking brake is where it should be. And we can do that pretty easily. We can put the rotor back on and the nut and everything but the actual shaft itself. So this will freewheel and easy to set your parking brake. So now our big fun is going to be to get this spacer off of the old rotor. Look at that mess. There I go. I make a mess everywhere I go. So since this rotor is not going to be used again, I'm simply going to put it in my vise and use my breaker bar and knock off the 8 bolts inside. So that's what I'm going to go do, and I'll come back with the new rotor. All right, we're back. We knocked the 8 bolts loose. Let's go ahead and pull those out the rest of the way. Hopefully it lifts right off. Hey, look at that. All right, so we'll want to be careful, make sure we don't get a lot of crap and junk down in there, because there is another bearing in here for the inner bearing. So if you want, go ahead and shoot them out with a little bit of brake clean. Make sure this turns freely, it's not all gummed up. Yep. Now these bearing seals, if you ever have to replace them, that's tough. If you don't have the right tool, it's very challenging. Ask me, because I know. So we've got this off. Old rotor gone, new rotor is over here. Let's go set them back on. This shiny goodness. So now we can actually start the reassembly process. Now, when I go ahead and use your thread locker, I'm choosing the blue thread lock. I mean, you can use the red thread lock or Gorilla Glue if you really hate yourself or anybody who may work on the vehicle in the future. So I choose blue. Alrighty, so we've got all these run down, hit it with the impact. You know, they've got blue thread locker on them. I'm not inclined to torque these down a whole lot just because I can't get a good bite on them with the torque wrench and not have everything spin around on me. I tried with the other wheel. I tried to put it on the ground flat and put a bar between the lug nuts, and it just didn't work for me at all. So most I'm going to do is just give it another turn here. See if I can get any more turn on it, and it's just not going to go. So no, I'm just going to put this back on. Feel free to debate in the comments, but I know I redid the other one 4 or 5 years ago with this same method, and all the nuts or all the bolts were still in, and they were a pain in the arse to get out. So I'm going to say blue thread locker and impact, you're good to go. Go ahead and clean this off real quick. I'm also going to take just a little bit of grease here and spin around so when I put that bearing back on there, it's got a little bit of a slippery surface to seat itself on, and I'm not trying to ram it on anything dry and break that seal. It is just a rubbery metal seal in there, and I don't want to have to take that out again. So I'm going to go ahead and take our hub and rotor assembly, set them back on the spindle. And again, you want to hold and support the hub to go over this so you're not just grinding and grating up against this, A, for the threads, and B, for the seal and the bearing in here. You know, don't do what I did. There we go. Now we can take our bearing and set it back on here. I'm going to, again, just a little bit of stuff on here because you can never have enough lube when reassembling bearings. Get your mind out of the gutters. Then we'll take our stop nut, whatever you want to call it, set it in. And start spinning it back in place. Look for that flush. Yeah, and give her 1, 2, 3 more turns. 1, 2, 3. Now what we're going for, we don't want binding in this bearing, and we don't want any slop back and forth. So there's definitely no slop back and forth, and there's no, just a hair. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put about 3 more clicks on this, because that's what we did when we took it off. So we get that last little bit of motion out of there. Okay, 6 clicks. that's tight. You can hear it binding. So I'll go back. There we go. No binding, nearly no play back and forth, so we're good to go there. Now, I'm going to clean off this face here, and then we'll almost be ready to put our shafts back in. So what I'm going to do now is crawl around the backside and work on setting the parking brake. Basically, there's a access hole back there. I can't get back there with the camera. There's too much crap in the way. But there's access hole for a screwdriver or a brake adjustment tool where you can extend or retract the shoes inside here to have the parking brake catch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust it so it just starts to catch, and then I'm going to back it off a couple clicks. So that when, again, I spin the rotor assembly around, nothing is catching on the brakes or the rotors. So that is our next goal, and I'll come back after I do that. Alrighty, so what we're going to do next is take this over to the workbench, clean this up, and throw some of the Permatex #2 black forma gasket stuff around here. There's a rubber gasket here, or seal, O-ring, whatever you want to say. But the Permatex stuff helps just because, I guess. So we'll go do that. Alrighty, we're back here, and I've got a nice goobery layer of slop around there. Because if one layer is good against leaks and drips, then how about two? Let's find my marks I made. Here we go. And we'll slide him back into the hole. Wiggle it around, but it will eventually seat. You line up your marks and push it up and into place. All right, I'm going to get one started. A little bit of blue goo, just to get everything in and tightened up where it should be. Then we'll get the other 7 run in. All right, here we go. Now, the one thing I'm going to mention is since you have taken off your rear axles here, did leave some fluid on the floor. So you're going to want to check your rear differential and make sure that fluid is still up to par before you go out driving around. Now, we're going to go ahead in a very soon upcoming video service both the front and rear differential, but I am going to top it off for now just to be safe, because who knows, I may end up getting distracted by some other project and forget to do it. That's certainly possible. So now we're going to go ahead and put our caliper bracket back on, put our caliper back on, and then tires, and we're done. All right, and here's that caliper bracket from earlier. Got the new pins in here, and those are nice and squishy and move well, full of lube. Hopefully we've got enough of our blue Smurf pea to get a little bit on these bolts. If you've been following the 1952 Chevy project, we've been trying to figure out the paint. And after unsuccessfully trying a couple vendors not local, I realized I've been forgetting somebody in my back door. O'Reilly actually has a complete paint booth or paint system at my nearest one. So I've been hanging out with Gary trying to get the right paint for the old 52, and I think we're just about got it dialed in. So we will go over that in one of those upcoming videos for the 52. It'd be really nice if my workbench was closer to my vehicle, and it'd be much nicer if my vehicle was up here, maybe, you know, on a lift. We're getting there though. The shop is built. My butt was in your way. We're just waiting on the ability to put in concrete and insulation. And that's again where you guys can come in handy with the liking of the videos, the subscribing, the sharing. Help YouTube get our videos out there to more people. More people is more views is hopefully more subscribers, and more subscribers is monetized. Oh yeah, got to push that brake caliper back in, don't I? I'm so distracted. All right, again, this is a Lang tool, caliper tool. Mentioned it earlier, and it is sure nice. Sure beats having to use a C-clamp and a block of wood. All right, get our brakes. And again, if you remember, the brake hardware that was on here was frozen stuck and wasn't really doing anybody any good. So I'm just not putting it back on. Again, comment as you wish below and flame me for a horrible, irresponsible thing. Which I'll disagree, respectfully. All right. Hopefully there's enough Smurf pea in here for 2 more nuts or 2 more bolts. 1. 2, and that's going to be all she wrote. All right, tart these guys back down. There we go. All right, last thing to do is going to put the back tires back on, take her off the jacks, and we'll be good to go. And clean up this mess. All right, we'll go tap our wheel cap back on here. And that's going to do it. All right, folks, well, that's going to do it for us. We got the both the front and the rear brakes replaced, pads and rotors for the F-350. I will go into the flushing of the brake system on another video because this one's just getting a little bit too long. So until then, hope you've enjoyed the video. Like it, subscribe, share with your friends, and we'll definitely see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.